Hi, Steph. I volunteered to do a presentation with my group, Dean and Victoria. I hope to present it live, at least over Zoom, but the technology gods didn't cooperate, so now I'm in the room with the CFO series. So here is a recording, 10 minutes on decentralized finance and smart contracts. So you may be completely ambivalent towards the crypto space, and you may be the same after this, but maybe you'll see a few reasons why I think you should care about the whole crypto space and the kind of things that are happening behind the scenes that I think are going to change a lot of the world. I've been in the crypto space since about 2012. I bought Bitcoin for the first time when it was $425. Now it's over 26,000. I was always just playing with small amounts though, so I didn't realize any huge gains, which is why I'm not on my yacht or driving my Lambo right now. I'm a little more invested now, but not a whole lot. But I believe in the space, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why. So there's decentralized finance, a world where financial systems are open, transparent, and controlled by the community. Well, the financial system is definitely not open and transparent right now, for sure, and controlled by community seems like a pipe dream. But really, with the kind of peer-to-peer technology that this enables, it is happening. Um, so I'm not going to get into the specifics of blockchain and Bitcoin. We have over 30 courses in our CP catalog that talk about this. Justin's done a good job of keeping this up to date with a lot of it's tax stuff, but you can learn about how the blockchain works, which is really interesting. Bitcoin, that's the white paper down on the bottom right, was started in 2009 by this guy Satoshi Nakamoto in response to the massive fraud and inequity in the financial system with the 2008 crash. So we're not going to go into all that, but I'm going to sort of talk about the technology that this has enabled, built off of the initial Bitcoin idea. So smart contracts. This is the kind of peer-to-peer transaction between two parties. That's all. It all takes place in code. So really, these are kind of simple if-then statements. If blank is true, execute blank. And again, there's no third party. So it's all code. It's terrifying to some. There's nobody in between. I think it's kind of empowering myself. But to give you an example, so let's say that we have a horse race. Winners need to get paid out. So we can, with the smart contract, there's something called an oracle, which is an external source that feeds information into the smart contract. So you can have several different sources feeding the winners of the horse race into the smart contract just to verify to make sure there's not one source. And once that is in the smart contract, once it's verified, smart contract executes, pays out the winner. It could also be things like these external sources. These oracles could be like weather, temperature sensors feeding info about food being transported. It's a really interesting kind of technology that I think is going to become more and more the thing as everything is digitized. Yeah, so the decentralized finance, these are software projects. Again, these are smart contracts, but they're software projects that run on blockchain, on different blockchains. Usually that's the Ethereum network or derivatives of that, these ERC20 tokens, that's Ethereum. They're self-auditing. It's a distributed ledger, so anyone can go in and look at the code. I mean, it's right there. And at the moment, most of these loans have to be over collateralized, so there's a ways to go, but there's definitely a promise there. You deposit money in the bank and you get like 0.75 interest at best, but some of these DeFi things you're getting 10 to 20%. I haven't done a lot of that, but it's definitely interesting. Especially in terms of everything else that's going on in the financial sector. So there's a bit of a liquidity crisis right now, and if small business can't get loans, small business accounts for 40 to 60% of all American jobs. It's not a great thing. And these liquidity problems really didn't come out of nowhere. I would say pay attention to what's going on with the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, the sort of coalitions that are going on that really threaten the dollar. And so I don't see these liquidity issues getting better anytime soon, but don't have a lot of time to get into that. This is the percentage of the world, lots of people have no formal or semi-formal financial services available to them. So something like DeFi, like in some of these nations where they can have access to funds, yeah, it might be a good thing. So with this crypto space, there's definitely a risk versus reward proposition here. It is a volatile asset class. Cryptos, people make a lot of money on, people lose a lot of money. I've done both, and yeah, there's that. There's no counterparty risk, but there's none to fall back on. So um, if you lose your coins, there's no one to call. You have only yourself to blame. Uh, and then, fraud risks. There's plenty of fraud that happens. The whole FTX scandal, that was a centralized exchange. There's a saying in crypto, not your keys, not your coins. I don't trust any centralized exchanges. I want the coins in my wallet and I want to control the keys. And you have to know the code too. I've actually lost some money on a smart contract because I naively trusted the code and I shouldn't have. So lots of risks there. So why bother? Um, it's a question that, why am I in? I'm not making a ton of money. Why do I care? Well, for me, it's about sovereignty, and I can explain to you a little bit. That's a strange word. I'll explain to you a little bit about why I think that's important. So Ripple XRP. XRP is a super fast token, fast coin, faster than Bitcoin, one of the fastest I've ever seen. And so consequently, all of these banks have entered into partnerships with Ripple to implement their blockchain. So you see like Barclays, Western Union, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Deloitte. The companies see benefit in this, and they're making a move on it. So these are tracks that are being laid, and just like any tool, there are ways that it could be used for ends that are not in our best interest. Um, and one of these, I think, is the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. These are happening behind the scenes right now. This is the plan. Absolute control over the rules and regulations of use by a centralized authority, the banks, and easier for governments to freeze assets for sure. If you saw what happened with the trucker protests and the peaceful trucker protests in Canada, they've just froze the bank accounts of some of the people involved. Uh, in Canada, it's easier to do than it is in the US, but it's super easy to do when you have a CBDC. So with the kind of stuff that people are seeing with these CBDCs, if you exceed your carbon credits for 2024, they can say like, oh, well, you're not allowed to buy an airline ticket. If you eat too much meat in 1 month, well, you've exceeded your carbon allowance, so you can't buy meat anymore. I mean, it seems far-fetched. It seems crazy, I know, but it's not as far-fetched. And actually, this just last week, this Congressman Tom Emmer had something to say about CBDCs. I'm going to play this for you.
This bill ensures the future of crypto is in the hands of the American people, not the administrative state, by prohibiting the Federal Reserve from creating a tool with unfettered insight into Americans' financial data. If not open, permissionless, and private, like cash, a CBDC is nothing more than a CCP-style surveillance tool that can be weaponized to oppress the American way of life. We're not going to let that happen.
So again, people who have looked into this say like it's not a good deal. It's not something we want. And to Mr. Emmer, I would say thank you, but also don't be so sure about what Americans will or will not be willing to accept if it comes in the form of a solution to a crisis. That crisis could look like a cyber attack, taking down the financial system. And maybe a CBC is introduced as a stopgap, even with UBI, Universal Basic Income, attached to it. Sounds great for a while until it isn't. So that's something I think that we should all pay attention to. Now, does that mean that Bitcoin is the ultimate solution? No. Should you invest in crypto? No. But I would encourage you, anyone that found anything in this presentation interesting, I would encourage you to just sort of dip your toe in. You can buy $10 worth of Bitcoin. You can buy a tiny amount. Just take it, put it in a wallet on your phone and see how it feels. See how it feels to be your own bank. Um, I think there's there's a lot more I could say here. Don't have time to get into a lot of this, but purchasing power since the Federal Reserve was implemented in 1913, purchasing power of the dollar has just plummeted. And this is sort of the history of lots of different currencies. There is an end game here. And I don't have time to talk a lot about that. Don't have time for a lot of book recommendations, but this one's a good one on the Federal Reserve. Very, very interesting. Not federal, has no reserves. It's an interesting little game that these guys played back in 1913. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much.